Good evening, everyone. We will call this meeting to order and note the members present at 6:30 p.m. Note all the staff in the gallery and those who are joining us on Zoom. I'd like to begin this meeting tonight with a land acknowledgement. We will begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are gathering on the land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples since time immemorial. We would like to recognize that we are in the Robinson Superior Treaty Territory, and the land on which we are gathered today is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe. Specifically, we acknowledge the neighboring community of Mishpont First Nation, for whom we have great respect. We also recognize the contributions of all Indigenous peoples, including the Métis, in shaping and strengthening the community and the province of Ontario. Thank you, and miigwech. Item number 2, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Hearing or seeing none, we will move on to item 3, approval of the agenda. May I have a mover? Councillor Hatfield? May I have a seconder? Councillor Cannon? All in favor? Carried. This evening, we do not have any delegations or presentations, so we'll move along to item number 5, adoption of minutes. 5.1, committee of the whole meeting, Tuesday, April 4th. May I have somebody make a motion to approve? Councillor Cannon? Councillor Opato will second. All in favor? Carried. There is no business arising out of previous meeting. So we'll move on to new business, and we'll start with item 7.1, oath of office, reference to His Majesty.
Thank you, Mayor. And the Municipal Act sets out when council gets elected what their oath of office is. Currently, that's contained within the Municipal Act. Council's received numerous correspondence from several communities in Ontario asking for support of resolutions asking the province to change the wording. And not only noted to change the wording of His Majesty King Charles III to be recognized, but also to recognize the inherent Aboriginal rights in the oath of office. So as I set out in my memo to council, it is part of the Truth and Reconciliation recommendations that municipalities do reference the rights of Indigenous people aimed at advancing reconciliation. So the recommendation to council tonight is to support resolutions put forward to the municipality from other municipalities tonight on the council regular agenda. One of those communities is the city of Port Colborne. There's the city of Trent Lakes. They're all asking other municipalities in Ontario to support that. Council requests the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing to make changes to the municipal oath of office to include recognizing and affirming Aboriginal and Treaty rights of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. And that, if council agrees, this be forwarded to the AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, Minister Dave Smith, Minister Michelle Ferrari, and Premier Doug Ford. So council, there's a staff recommendation that council support that resolution at the next regular meeting. We request that the following be added to Municipal Act as part of the oath. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, and that I will faithfully observe the laws of Canada, including the Constitution, which recognizes and affirms the Aboriginal and Treaty rights of First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people. And further, sure. That's correspondence on the regular meeting and the recommendation of staff to support those resolutions and calls for action.
Is there any questions or comments? It looks like you have everybody is in line with your suggestion. So we are fully in agreement, and we look forward to seeing that on next meeting's agenda.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 7.2, the draft Phenom conference agenda.
Thank you, Mayor, and the conference agenda is attached, but I wanted to introduce that on tonight's regular meeting. There is a resolution asking for council support to amend who council had approved for travel previously. Previously, we approved the mayor's travel to be part of those attending the Phenom conference. The mayor has advised that she would step down from attending that conference so Councillor Kathy Cannon could attend. And in lieu of attending Phenom, the mayor would be interested in attending AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario conference in August, that we had previously approved for Councillor Pato to attend. So I'm attaching the Phenom agenda so all councillor knows, and we'll be looking tonight on the regular agenda for council support of that change to the travel.
Is there any questions or comments? Thank you very much. Item 7.3, 2023 Ontario Senior of the Year Award.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just proceed to speak to the letter from the Ministry of Seniors and Accessibility regarding the Ontario Senior of the Year Award program. We did receive this correspondence a couple of weeks ago, but the deadline to submit is April 30th. It didn't provide enough time for staff to go out and do any kind of public advertising on behalf of council looking for nominations. So tonight I put this forward to council that if council had any suggestions, perhaps they wanted to recommend a senior, or there's no limit to the number of recommendations council can make for this award program. And then maybe if the recommendations are sent to me by phone call or email, I could look at what suggestions come in, and pending majority rule kind of approach, I would submit some applications on behalf of council. Thank you.
Is there any other questions or comments? Okay, I think all of council is in agreement with that type of approach to submitting worthy names for this type of award. Councillor Hatfield, do you have a question or comment?
I'm sorry, I just thought, do we have, but if we nominate somebody, do we have to talk about them and tell you all about them, or do we just give you the name?
I think for now, council would just submit a name through email or phone. I will see what comes in. If there's a certain senior that stands out, that would be the recommendation. I may have to call on council for background support, because the application does ask for a history of their community service and activities, which staff may not know depending on what name is put forward. So I would look for council support if required.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hatfield. Item 7.4, draft policy HR 030, citizen complaint policy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I put forward a draft suggested policy for council to consider, referred to as a municipal public complaint policy. The municipality does not have a formal policy around receiving municipal complaints. And so based on our previous conversations with council, staff recommends that we consider a policy. So the draft policy in front of council basically sets out why council would put this policy forward, definitions, process. Essentially, this is not to be viewed as a complaint process if members of the public have a complaint about a decision of council. It's not a complaint policy if it's just a request for a service, or nor does it accept complaints that might be a matter handled by another piece of legislation, a tribunal or a court of law. So it does set out in the policy what is actually a public complaint. So those complaints would be able to be made by persons in the community, either through the website. We have a form on the website where everyone can send in a complaint that way. There's a verbal complaints made in person or by telephone or made through a council that would be accepted. Written complaints can be sent by mail, email, or delivered directly to municipal staff or through a member of council. And that the complaint should be made as soon as possible when known. So it is recommended that this policy deal with those complaints in an informal manner, that staff commits to trying to resolve complaints within a certain time as quickly as possible, set out in the policy. But if we aren't able to deal with informal complaints, then the policy includes a formal complaint process. There is a form that the individual would sign. We would acknowledge it, undertake a review and investigation, commit to the complainant to respond within 20 days, and make a decision. Also in the policy, it requires that complaints to the municipality be tracked. So staff would track any public complaints that come in, and I believe report to council quarterly or annually. So council would have an idea of what kind of municipal complaints are coming in. All personal information would be protected, all complainants, but the policy does recommend that anonymous complaints not be accepted. There should be a name associated, held in confidence with the municipality where the complaints are coming from, and that those names would not be shared at any time in any tracking system with council, because those names are considered confidential and private information. So the policy also has the clause that council would review this policy annually or as required for updating. Attached to the policy is a copy of the draft complaint form we wish to use, and we present this to council tonight as a draft, looking for comment. We've asked staff to review and comment as well, so we would come back to council in maybe at the next meeting with a final draft and request to approve if we have agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Is there any comments or questions to Maureen regarding the proposed policy? Go ahead, Councillor Hatfield.
Lori, the one, it's the vexatious one, it says the complaint is initiated with potential intent to embarrass or annoy their siblings. Like if you complain about an employee, you're going to embarrass them anyway.
Well, it means that it's initiated with the potential to annoy or is part of a pattern of conduct by the complainant that amounts to an abuse of the complaint process. So what we mean by that in this policy, and this is a policy and a phrase that's used in the majority of municipal public complaint policies, that you may get into a situation where someone is complaining over and over and over with maybe, I'll use the term, a non-valid complaint, meaning something that could be solved otherwise, or is intended to maybe just direct attention to one's particular employee because of maybe a personnel matter or another matter other than a legitimate complaint. So what we mean by that is complaints that really, after review, would be deemed not valid.
Yeah, because, I just have a problem with that, and frivolous. Might be frivolous to somebody, but might not be frivolous to the one that's putting it in. Like those two, I have trouble with those two, because when you do put a complaint in, it's usually affects somebody. You know, like say, well, I don't like the way they did that. Well, that's the two things, but you said there are other policies in other places?
Oh yes, it's pretty standard practice in municipalities to have these terms and this kind of clause in a complaint policy. You do have examples where you just have a citizen that's upset at something, and so sometimes they might continually send in complaints about different matters that in essence can't be solved. They might be a complaint about a council policy or a municipal procedural matter that just can't be resolved. So I take note of your concerns, and we will look to tighten up the definitions of those matters. I believe that the decision, although I have to note and review the policy to see if it's included, the decisions about whether a complaint is vexatious or frivolous would rest with the CAO, not with any other staff member. And perhaps upon our review, we could look that if the individual complainant is not satisfied with the ruling of the CAO, then it could be a final and appeal to council. So we can ensure that there are two levels. What we had put to council a couple of weeks ago is also an option, that any complaints that are deemed that, for example, by the CAO, could be confirmed by the Integrity Commission. So we also have a process, we could use an Integrity Commissioner to either support or deny a CAO recommendation about that. I have no examples in the municipality Wawa where we've ever had this occur. However, I take note of your concerns and would incorporate something to try to define that better and set out some parameters for decisions about that to be made in the best way possible for the municipality.
Like, I really don't think anybody complains to directly upset somebody, it's just, you know, that's what I have a problem with. If I came and said, well, why did they plow that way? And, you know, Dan says, well, that's the way we've always done it. So, well, I don't like it that way because, but I'm not going against Dan, I just, you know what I mean?
Again, it's open to interpretation. I wouldn't interpret that kind of complaint as an embarrassment against staff. So we definitely will take what you said, and I appreciate the comments.
Yeah, like I don't want to hurt him.
Councillor Cannon?
Maureen, I just wanted to, make sure that, I mean, if they're not satisfied with that, that it does, they still have the choice of bringing it to council. So somewhere in there, it has to be written that, I mean, not that, like some little thing, I mean, they're not gonna, you're gonna use your discretion, but if they're not satisfied, they have to have a way that they can go higher, I guess, like some people do, and for it to come to council so that council can make that decision.
Thank you, yes.
Are there any questions or comments? Any other ones? Councillor Platt? I wanted to, I'll make two notes. Certainly, I'm glad to see that, that we do have the definitions of frivolous and vexatious, because I do recognize that they are a very standard definition to be included, because well, I do agree with Councillor Hatfield that most people are genuine and sometimes make complaints, you know, just to be helpful and to see a process improved. Others, sometimes the intent can be off. So we have to plan for all different types of scenarios. So I think that's why these standard clauses are included. And the second is with regarding the tracking. So I'm really happy to see tracking and reporting included in the policies, because that will certainly give us as council an idea of where complaints are being put in, and how we can get better. If we're getting, you know, one complaint about snow plowing and 1,000 complaints about parking, you know, we all know where we can put our focus. So, and what gets measured gets fixed. So I think that's really important that we start to include a tracking mechanism into our policies. So really happy to see that. And if there are no other questions, we can move on to 7.5. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. So my report is the first quarter financial review. So not a lot of concerns, really no concerns in this report. It's just a quick overview of what's happened in the first 3 months financially. So taxation and school boards, the interim tax bills went out, and we've been collecting on those. The final tax bills will not go out until the next quarter. So we're only recognizing half of our revenue right now, which is typical. Under administration or in the administration department, the first installment of the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund has been received. Due to the high interest rates, our investments have been doing good, so we've already realized 42% of our projected investment gains. So we thought we would make about 222,000 this year. We're already at 93,000, so that's good news. Hopefully that'll keep at that same rate. Penalties and interest revenue is at 30%, a little bit higher than I would like, but we are going into our next round of collections, so it should come down for the second quarter. Information technology, this one is actually a little bit more than the entire year's revenue. It's just the timing of the billing. So the billing for the year for municipal consulting for this department goes out at the beginning of the year. And I think that new contracts were negotiated a little bit higher than what we expected. The building department is a little bit lower than we projected for the first quarter, but it's also not the building season. So I have no real concerns there because I think we'll very quickly catch up, probably starting next month. Police services boards, there's no revenue to report yet. It's a grant and it's a timing, so also not any concerns there. Also in infrastructure, the timing is due, or the variance is due to timing in the revenues here, so lower than 25%, but also having to do with the timing. Special initiatives happen in the fall. The landfill gets busier in the summer with construction season, so again, no concerns. Airport, the revenues are at 25% of the budgeted amount, so no concerns here. Transit, we're a little bit ahead in the fare revenue, so at 32%. This is very minimal revenue. It's not, but it's nice to know that we're doing a little bit better than expected. And the funding from the provincial gas tax hasn't come in yet, timing again. And mostly because the province year end is March 31st, so we won't see those revenues until after April. So solid waste collection and landfill revenues are only at 11%. Again, it's winter. People are going to start construction, demolition, cleaning up their yards, and the special initiatives happen in the fall. So those numbers I'm expecting to pick up in the next 2 quarters. Water and sewer doesn't really show any revenues yet, but that's because of the timing of our billing. So January to April gets billed in May, which is the second quarter. So I'm also comfortable with this one for now. The Mishkocotton Community Center, I was surprised because with COVID, we've had such a struggle for the last few years, but this was a nice, pleasant surprise. The arena rentals are at 29% of the budgeted amount, and they're 3 times what they were last year at this time. So, which was nice to see. The hall rentals are a little low, but again, it could be timing. I think some of the larger events happen in the fall and winter, so like early winter. And just the seasonal nature of some of the things. So overall, the facility is at 42% of the budgeted income for the year. So it's done quite well so far. Parks and tourism, there's nothing but also parks and tourism. It's going to start up probably May, June. So that brings us to the expenses. Also, no major concerns here. Taxation, so there was a number of taxation that was fairly high. It was $62,000 for the tax arrears, interest and penalty was written off. This is a normal occurrence when we have a tax sale. We vest a property from a tax sale, and that's exactly what happened here. We vested and sold a property, we wrote off the taxes. So this is a non-cash expense. It's money that wasn't collected in prior years. We were able to sell this property and change it from a non-income generating property to an income generating property. So this is just part of cleanup. Administration, also not concerned. The transfer to reserves and capital funds happen usually in the 3rd and 4th quarter as capital projects wind up. Airports pretty much where we expected. The aviation fuel purchases are a little bit higher than what we thought they might be, but so are the revenues, so they go hand in hand. Landfill, I think I said a little bit earlier, again, timing, once construction season starts, that one will pick up. Special initiatives, that's our hazardous waste day, and I think there might be a couple other little special things, batteries, I think we still do some there, but they happen also later in the year, so we won't see anything there. Water and wastewater, also the biggest fluctuation here is the timing of the moving of the reserves. So money into the reserves and the capital fund transfers. So as we start those capital projects, we'll see things start to move there. Cemetery also typically occurs in the 2nd and 3rd quarter, most of the costs as we fix up things in the cemetery, and those costs will come in. Assistance to seniors, I just put this in more as an information. It's 100% funded. And it's money that we use to help the seniors club. And the parks, also nothing much to talk about here because they're gonna start up in May, June. So the marina and the outdoor parks, their costs will come in the summer. And then capital, also first quarter, got a lot of capital happening. We have put out some RFPs. We did get, I think you've already been told this before, the filters, the first skid of filters, they're in and we're using them. So that's good. The building condition assessment project we've started. The RFPs have come in for the fire assessment. I'm probably missing some other ones. But it's well on its way. So that's it. Overall, I think we're doing well and I'm confident. So if there's any questions, otherwise.
Thank you very much, Manuela. Is there any questions or comments from council? Thank you very much, Manuela. We have no questions, and but it's still early in the year, so we've got lots of time to think of some good questions for you. But,
It is.
thank you so much for the update. 7.6, Dan Beach and Rebecca Weatherall report engineer of record.
Hi, Mayor and Council. So I'd like to give you the goals notes on this report. So we have the record of consulting engineer for coming to an end in May 31st. We have two engineer firms right now, Crescent Engineering, who is doing the water and wastewater part of it, and Pinchin, who is doing the consulting for subdivision, site plans, administration for traffic, transportation studies, stuff like that. What we're asking council and staff, council, mayor and council, is for support for us to keep Crescent as the engineer of record for the water and wastewater part of it, and then put out an RFP for the other part. So Crescent has been with us for a long time. They know our system. They've worked with our staff over the years. They've given us great support over the years. We would really look for your support to keep Crescent for the next 3 years by extending their agreement. Any questions?
Any questions? Councilor Hatfield?
Dan, so you want to keep Crescent, then you said somebody else for the RFP for the other part. Do you mean Pinchin's part?
Yes, for Pinchin's part.
Oh, so you're going to put it out for bid again?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and Pinchin will still be able to bid on the RFP that's out, along with whoever else applies.
Yes, that's right.
Any other questions from our council? It doesn't look like there's any objections to your plan. I think there's full alignment with whatever you feel like you need to do for your team, so please proceed.
Yes, thank you.
Resolution next week.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask you. That's what I was looking at.
Next week, yeah.
We're fully aligned with your suggestion.
Yes.
Item number 8, in-camera session. There is none. There is no business arising from the closed session. And item number 10, next meeting date is Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. Item number 11, adjournment. Close of meeting, 6:59 p.m. Meeting adjourned. So if you want to give us a couple more minutes. Oh, we need a word close. May I have somebody close the meeting? Councilor Kennedy? I think we only need one. All in favor? Carried. And we'll give us 1 minute to get to the next meeting.
Danny's Mike's first.
Oh.
Danny, you're next.
So we'll call this meeting to order and note the members present at 7 p.m. Item number 2, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, second by Councillor Pato, resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council scheduled for Tuesday, April 18th, 2023 be approved as presented.
All in favor? Carried. There are no delegations or presentations, so we'll move on to announcements and giving of notice. There are a number of announcements listed on tonight's agenda, so I encourage everybody to take a look. But does council have any announcements that they'd like to make? Councillor Hatfield?
We attended the water session and all councillors did in Chapleau. And it was the same gentleman and it was very, very educational. Like he was very easy to understand. He has some ideas he doesn't like and likes that we're doing, but he really made us realize what responsibility we have. And I intend to talk to Becca later and ask some questions that we had written down to see, what she thinks and have a report for us. And, I'll ask the other councillors too if they have any more reports. But it was a very good, it was very well done.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hatfield. I wanted to just make a comment that National Volunteer Week is April 16th to the 22nd here in Canada. WAWA has a tremendous base of volunteers that really hold our community together. So I wanted to just give a shout out to the volunteers that we have in our community. Our community depends on them. So thank you very much to everybody who volunteers their time and their resources to all of the organizations in our community. So thank you, and please keep it up, and please bring somebody else and encourage somebody else to volunteer because we need more. And with that said, we'll move on to item number 6, adoption of minutes.
Moved by Councillor Cannon, second by Councillor Pato, resolved that the following minutes of the meeting of council be adopted as presented. Minutes of a regular meeting of council held on Tuesday, April 4th, 2023, as contained on pages 1 to 7, inclusive of the minute book.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 7, correspondence. It looks like we've got 3 items of correspondence listed for tonight's agenda. Maury, is there anything particular that we should take notice of?
There are 2 letters from municipalities looking for support of their resolutions. I've spoken about the one regarding oath of office. The other one is a resolution of support to the province to reduce municipal insurance costs. This has been a matter that municipalities have tried to approach the government on for many, many years. So I'm sure that council supports that, and we would put a resolution forward at the next regular meeting. The letter from Minister Clark is about upcoming and proposed changes to a number of acts, again around trying to support the growth and development of housing and accommodations in the province. This particular piece of legislation has a couple of aspects. One is to help home buyers. So there are some changes to different regulations around making sure new home buyers are protected, that they have options. For example, one phrase is a cooling off period, that you have a 30-day window should something happen in a transaction that either party can renegotiate or leave any agreement that might be entered into. There's some additional changes to the Landlord-Tenant Act that involve that the province is committing to hire thousands more landlord-tenant tribunal and board representatives to deal with the extremely large caseload of matters before the landlord tenant tribunal. So the government is making a commitment to hire many more persons to work on resolving these matters in front of the tribunals to expedite and get through the backlog of cases. So there's a number of other changes. One of the major ones is we have what's called a provincial policy statement that guides all municipalities in Ontario around how municipalities are to develop from a land use perspective. It hasn't been updated for many years, so there's a proposed piece of legislation to update that provincial policy statement. And in essence, it's changing how the government expects municipalities to deal with land use issues. And those changes proposed are intended to really shorten the amount of time and quote, quote, red tape around developers coming forward to build in communities. So that's at the draft stage and is under review. So those are basically the correspondence on tonight's agenda for council.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item number 8, consent agenda.
Moved by Councillor Pato, second by Councillor Hatfield, resolved that the items listed under the consent agenda items 8.2 to 8.5 be approved as recommended.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 9, staff reports.
Moved by Councillor Pato, second by Councillor Hatfield, resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby receive staff report MB 2023-08, the first quarter financial report.
All in favor? Carried. There is no business arising out of the previous meeting, so we will move on to item number 11, new business.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, seconded by Councillor Pato, whereas the Wawa Age Friendly Committee supports an application to the Inclusive Community Grants Program to support the implementation of action items outlined in the Wawa Age Friendly Plan 2021 to 2025 that focuses on improving communications and social participation with seniors. And whereas the Wawa Age Friendly Plan provides a list of goals with achievable actions. And whereas staff have reviewed the Inclusive Community Grants Program and suggestions from the Wawa Age Friendly Committee of Council and recommends the grant application be submitted for 1 electronic billboard and to hire a municipal age-friendly seniors coordinator for a 6-month contract from September 2023 to March 2024. Therefore, be it resolved that Council of the Corporation of Municipality of Wawa does hereby accept staff recommendations and authorizes the submission of funding application to the Inclusive Community Grants Program.
All in favor? 11.2.
Moved by Kathy Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hatfield. Moved by Councillor Cannon, seconded by Councillor Hatfield. Resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby accept staff recommendation to discontinue the practice of establishing bands of assessment of property for the purpose of facilitating a graduated tax rate for properties included in the commercial tax classes beginning in the 2024 taxation year.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 11.3.
Moved by Councillor Pato, seconded by Councillor Hatfield, resolved that the Corporation of the Municipality of Wawa does hereby accept staff recommendation in memo DB 2023-04, Wawa Electric Transit Vehicle Initiative, and to pursue an accessible electric van and associated charging infrastructure to replace the existing gas-powered minibus.
All in favor? Carried. There is no notice of motion. Item number 13, bylaws.
Moved by Councillor Pato, seconded by Councillor Hatfield, resolved that the following bylaws be introduced and read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Bylaw number 3592-23 to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on the 18th day of April, and bylaw number 3593-23 to adopt municipality of Wawa policy number HR 017, Code of Conduct for Council and Board and Committee appointees.
All in favor? Carried.
necessarily, the code of conduct, you were accepting that, but are you gonna make the changes on it? Oh, no, I'm sorry, I was thinking, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I was thinking of the one we read tonight.
It's not coming forward.
okay,
That's
perfect.
okay, I'm here.
Item number 14, closed session. There's no closed session, so there's no item 14 or 15. But the next meeting date will be Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. So we'll move to the adjournment, the close of meeting at 7:10 p.m.
Moved by Councillor Pado, seconded by Councillor Hatfield, resolved that the meeting close at 7:10 p.m.
All in favor? Carried.
Sorry, yes. That makes sense.
People, we're